Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Boss Economics World, the only show that tells it like it is, cuts through the government's economic fairy tales, and exposes the real villains behind your shrinking wallets. I'm your host, the no-nonsense, data-slinging, truth-bomb-dropping econ warrior, here to unmask the madness of economic mismanagement. Buckle up, because today, we're diving headfirst into the tariff tornado unleashed by none other than Donald J. Trump, a policy so chaotic it's making Wall Street tremble, Main Street grumble, and economists everywhere fumble for answers. Let's get to it. Oh, folks, here we go again, another grand promise of an economic golden age from the Oval Office, courtesy of President Trump's latest tariff blitz. On April 2, 2025, Trump stood in the Rose Garden, chest puffed out, declaring that jobs and factories will come roaring back into our country. Sounds like a Hollywood blockbuster, right? But hold your applause, because the plot twist is already here. Global markets are in meltdown, manufacturers are pulling their hair out, and economists are screaming into the void, this doesn't add up. Now, if you've been watching Boss Economics World, and if you haven't, what are you even doing with your life? You know we don't just swallow the government's Kool-Aid. We dissect it, analyze it, and spit out the truth. So, let's peel back the layers of this tariff mess, from the surface noise to the deep, dark economic fault lines it exposes. Spoiler alert, the government's mismanagement is, once again, setting us up for a recessionary disaster, and you, the hard-working taxpayer, are footing the bill. Let's start with the headlines, folks. Trump's decision to jack up tariffs to their highest levels in over a century, 46% on Vietnam, 49% on Cambodia, 32% on Indonesia, and more, has sent shockwaves through the global economy. Apple, Nike, Abercrombie and Fitch, Panasonic, these corporate giants are sweating bullets as their supply chains get hammered. Just last week, the Dow Jones plummeted 1,200 points in a single day, wiping out $1.5 trillion in market value, according to Bloomberg data. Meanwhile, the S&P 500 is down 8% since the tariff announcement, and volatility indexes are spiking like it's 2008 all over again. And who's paying for this chaos? You guessed it, you, me, and every American consumer. A study by the National Bureau of Economic Research, NBR, in 2024 estimated that Trump's previous tariffs, 2018 to 2020, cost U.S. consumers $40 billion annually in higher prices. Now, with tariffs even higher, Moody's Analytics projects that the average American household will shell out an extra $2,600 per year by 2026. That's right, folks, your grocery bills, your iPhones, your sneakers, all getting pricier, courtesy of Uncle Sam's brilliant, America First, plan. But wait, there's more. The National Association of Manufacturers, NAM, dropped a bombshell, warning that these tariffs threaten investment, jobs, supply chains, and, in turn, America's ability to outcompete other nations. Jay Timmons, NAM's president, didn't mince words, and neither will I. This isn't economic strategy, it's economic sabotage. Now, let's zoom out from the headlines and get to the real meat of this mess, supply chains. Trump's big promise is to reshore manufacturing, bringing factories back to the good old USA. Sounds patriotic, right? But here's the problem, the global economy isn't a Lego set you can just pick up and move. Kip Eidberg, Senior VP at the Association of Equipment Manufacturers, hit the nail on the head. You can't just pick all that up and move it over to the US. Why not? Because modern manufacturing is a global jigsaw puzzle. Take your iPhone, for example. The chips come from Taiwan, the rare earth metals from China, the assembly from Vietnam, and the design from California. Moving all of that to the US isn't just expensive, it's borderline impossible. According to a 2024 McKinsey report, reshoring the entire electronics supply chain would increase production costs by 30 to 50%, making your $1,200 iPhone cost closer to $1,800. And guess who's paying for that? Not Apple's shareholders, you, the consumer. Oh, and let's not forget the workforce issue. Even if companies wanted to move factories back, where are the workers? The Bureau of Labor Statistics reported 482,000 open manufacturing jobs in February 2025, and a NAM survey found that 48.4% of manufacturers can't find skilled workers. Trump's immigration crackdown isn't helping either. Deporting low-cost labor while expecting factories to magically staff up is like trying to bake a cake without flour. Now, let's get to the heart of this economic dumpster fire, government mismanagement. Trump's tariff strategy is built on quicksand, there's no long-term plan, no consistency, and no data to back it up. Economists like Samuel Toombs at Pantheon Macroeconomics are sounding the alarm, warning that tariffs will not trigger a large wave of reshoring because companies won't invest billions in new U.S. factories if they think the policy could flip-flop tomorrow. And flip-flop it does. Trump has waffled between these tariffs are permanent and I'm open to negotiations, leaving businesses in a state of paralysis. Here's the kicker, folks, even the White House's own cheerleader, Stephen Miller, tried to spin this by saying, oh, don't worry, 3D printing, robotics, and AI will save us. Really, Stephen? A 2024 Deloitte study found that advanced manufacturing technologies reduce labor costs by only 10 to 15%, nowhere near enough to offset the 50% plus cost advantage of producing overseas. This isn't a strategy, it's a fantasy. And let's not forget the hypocrisy. Companies like Tesla, led by Trump's buddy Elon Musk, are already begging for tariff exemptions on Chinese machinery, arguing they can't set up US factories without it. So, Trump's America First plan is already riddled with loopholes for his cronies, while the rest of us are stuck with higher prices and fewer jobs. Here's where it gets really scary, folks. Tariffs, uncertainty, and higher costs are a perfect recipe for a recession, and the data backs me up. The Federal Reserve's latest Beige Book, March 2025, reported that 10 out of 12 districts are seeing declining business confidence due to tariff uncertainty. Meanwhile, the Conference Board's leading economic index has been flashing red, dropping 0.6% month-over-month in February 2025, a classic warning sign of an impending downturn. And don't take my word for it, look at history. The Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act of 1930, which raised tariffs to protect U.S. industries, backfired spectacularly, triggering a global trade war and deepening the Great Depression. According to the U.S. International Trade Commission, U.S. exports fell 61% from 1929 to 1933, and GDP shrank by 30%. Sound familiar? Trump's tariffs are Smoot-Hawley 2.0, and the government's mismanagement is steering us straight into an economic iceberg. Now, let's talk politics, because Trump's tariff gamble isn't just economic, it's electoral. A CBS poll released before the tariff announcement found that 55% of Americans think Trump is too focused on tariffs, and 64% say he's not doing enough to lower prices. Only 23% believe his policies are making them better off financially. Ouch. Remember Biden's big spending bills on infrastructure and pandemic relief? They were supposed to boost the economy, but voters didn't feel the benefits fast enough, and Democrats got clobbered in 2024. Trump's betting he can avoid the same fate, but with inflation already ticking up, 3.8% year-over-year in March 2025, per the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and consumer confidence tanking, he's playing with fire. If this tariff mess doesn't deliver jobs and factories by the 2026 midterms, the GOP could be toast. So, what's the takeaway, folks? Trump's tariff blitz is a masterclass in government mismanagement, big promises, no plan, and a whole lot of pain for you, the taxpayer. Instead of fixing real problems, like crumbling infrastructure, a broken education system, or a manufacturing workforce shortage, the government is slapping band-aids on bullet wounds and calling it surgery. Here's my advice, straight from the Boss Economics World Playbook: demand accountability. Call your representatives, question these policies, and don't let the government gaslight you into thinking higher prices and fewer jobs are winning. Because if we keep letting them get away with this, the only golden age we'll see is the one where politicians and their cronies get richer while the rest of us get poorer. That's all for today, folks. If you're as fed up as I am, smash that like button, subscribe, and share this video with everyone you know. And remember, here at Boss Economics World, we don't just report the news, we expose the truth. See you next time, when we'll tackle the next economic train wreck courtesy of Washington, D.C.